My daughter laughed when I wore my old suit, but she didn't expect who complimented me first. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but mine came wrapped in a navy blue blazer from 1998. I stepped out of my bedroom that Tuesday morning feeling proud. The suit still fit perfectly after all these years, pressed crisp, buttons gleaming, shoulders sharp. I'd spent an hour getting ready, remembering the woman I used to be before I became just mom and the wife. My daughter, Emma, was scrolling through her phone at the breakfast table. When she looked up, her face twisted. Then she laughed. Not a giggle, but a full-throated, mocking laugh that echoed through our kitchen. "Mom, what are you wearing?" she gasped between fits of laughter. "Is that from a costume shop?" My cheeks burned. "It's my old work suit. I thought." "You look ridiculous," she interrupted, tears streaming down her face. "It's so outdated and embarrassing." "Oh my God. Wait." She grabbed her phone, aiming the camera at me. The click of the shutter felt like a slap. "I have to show Dad this." I heard my husband, Marcus, coming down the stairs. Emma rushed to meet him, shoving her phone in his face. I watched from the kitchen doorway, my heart pounding. Marcus squinted at the screen. Then his mouth curved into a smirk I'd seen too many times lately. "She looks like she's going to a job interview in the 80s, he chuckled, handing the phone back. Not one word of defense. Not even a glance in my direction. Emma giggled again. "Right?" I told her it was embarrassing. "Well," Marcus said, loosening his tie, "some people just can't keep up with the times." They shared a knowing look that excluded me completely. My throat tightened. I'd married this man 23 years ago, and he'd promised to always have my back. Now, he couldn't even manage basic respect. I turned to leave, but Emma's voice stopped me. "Oh, by the way, Grandma's coming for dinner tonight. We're planning something special." The way she emphasized special made my stomach drop. Marcus's mother, Helen, arrived 2 hours early. She had a key, of course, and let herself in while I was still in my suit, tidying the living room. Her eyes scanned me from head to toe, her lips pursing with distaste. "Well," she said slowly, "I see what Emma meant on the phone." I forced a smile. "Hello, Helen." She walked closer, circling me like a shark. "Dear, you really should let Emma take you shopping. This whole, look." She waved her hand dismissively. "It's not doing you any favors." Emma emerged from her room, grinning. "Right, Grandma?" "I told you," Helen whispered, though loud enough for me to hear. "You're absolutely right, dear. She's hopeless. Always has been." They moved to the kitchen together, leaving me standing alone. I followed quietly, pretending to prep vegetables while they huddled together. "Tonight at dinner," Helen murmured, "we'll teach her a proper lesson about presentation." Emma nodded eagerly. Dinner was torture-dressed as a family meal. We sat around the table, Marcus at the head, Helen beside him, Emma across from me. I'd cooked everything, as usual, but no one acknowledged it. "So, Mother," Marcus said between bites, "Emma showed you the photo?" Helen dabbed her mouth with a napkin. "Oh yes. Quite the spectacle." They launched into open criticism, dissecting my appearance as if I were invisible. Emma leaned forward. "No wonder no one ever takes her seriously. Can you imagine showing up anywhere important looking like that?" Marcus nodded. "It's like she's stuck in the past. Refuses to move forward." My fork trembled in my hand. "They talked about me, around me, but never to me." Helen added, "In my day, women took pride in their appearance. Real pride." The insult hung in the air. I slowly placed my fork down, excused myself quietly, and walked toward the bathroom. But I didn't cry. Instead, I stopped in the hallway listening, waiting. I locked myself in my bedroom, leaning against the door. In the mirror across the room, I caught my reflection, the same woman they'd mocked. But I saw something different. The suit still fit like it was made for me. The seams were perfect. The fabric quality. This suit represented my first major career victory. The day I closed a deal that saved my entire department. The day my boss called me invaluable. The day I knew I was capable of anything. When had I forgotten that woman? I walked closer to the mirror, straightening the lapels. "No more," I whispered. "I won't be belittled again." As I turned to hang the jacket, something slipped from the inside pocket and fluttered to the floor. A business card, yellowed slightly with age. I picked it up, my breath catching. Theodore Walsh, CEO, Walsh and Associates. Theodore. We'd worked together 15 years ago. He'd been a senior manager then, brilliant and kind. I'd heard he'd skyrocketed since. I sat on the edge of my bed, turning the card over in my hands. Theodore had once told me I was the sharpest person he'd ever worked with. "You see solutions where others see walls," he'd said. Maybe this was fate. Maybe after years of being diminished in my own home, the universe was reminding me of who I really was. I pulled out my laptop, hands shaking slightly as I searched for him online. His company had grown exponentially. He'd been featured in business magazines, won awards, built an empire. And then I found his professional email listed right on the company website. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. What would I even say? It had been so long. He probably didn't remember me. Probably wouldn't care. But as I heard Emma's laughter drift up from downstairs, something hardened in my chest. I opened a new email draft, my fingers finally moving across the keys. "Dear Theodore, long time. Would love to reconnect if you have a moment." I stared at the drafted message for 10 full minutes. My cursor blinked at me, waiting, judging maybe. What did I have to lose? My dignity was already in shreds on my own kitchen floor. My family had made their opinion of me crystal clear. This suit, this symbol of my former strength, was apparently a joke to them. I thought about Emma's laugh, Marcus's smirk, Helen's casual cruelty. My finger moved to the mouse. One click. That's all it would take. I clicked send before I could second-guess myself. The whoosh sound felt like jumping off a cliff. My heart hammered as I closed the laptop. He wouldn't respond. Of course he wouldn't. Successful CEOs didn't have time to reply to random emails from people they barely remembered from over a decade ago. I changed out of my suit carefully, hanging it with more reverence than before. Downstairs, I heard the TV and more laughter. I didn't join them. If you're enjoying this story so far, please take a moment to like this story, and also hit the subscribe button to get notified of our new series. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Probably Emma sending the photo to more people. I almost ignored it, but something made me look. The email notification made my hands shake. Long time. From Theodore Walsh. I opened it with trembling fingers. "I can't believe it's really you. I was just thinking about you last month when we discussed resilience in leadership. You were the one who carried the team through the Henderson crisis. That whole campaign would have collapsed without you. I'd love to catch up. Actually, I'm hosting a corporate networking event tomorrow evening. Would you be interested? No pressure, but it would be great to see you." I read it 3 times. Then 4. He remembered me. Not just remembered, he'd been thinking about me. About my work. About my value. My eyes welled up, but these weren't tears of humiliation. These were something else entirely. The event was tomorrow. Less than 24 hours away. I glanced at my closed bedroom door, imagining my family below, still laughing at their own cruel jokes. Theodore saw me. Really saw me. He'd seen me then, and somehow, even after all this time, he still did. I began typing my response, my heart racing. I spent the night tossing and turning, Theodore's invitation burning in my mind. Could I really do this? Walk into a room full of successful people after years of being treated like I was nothing? The next morning, Emma left early for classes. Marcus barely glanced up from his breakfast. "You're quiet," he noted absently. "Just thinking," I replied. He didn't ask about what. He never did anymore. After he left for work, I stood alone in the house. The silence felt heavy with possibility. I walked to my closet and pulled out the suit again. In the morning light, it didn't look outdated at all. Classic, maybe. Timeless. The cut was clean, professional. The navy blue was still rich and deep. I made my decision. I spent the afternoon preparing with the same care I used to take before big presentations. hair, makeup, the whole suit pressed to perfection. Each button I fastened felt like armor clicking into place. When I finally looked in the mirror, I saw her again, the woman I'd been before I let them diminish me. My phone buzzed. The event details from Theodore. It was time. The event was held at the Grandview Hotel, in their largest ballroom. I'd driven past this place 1,000 times, but never imagined stepping inside. Walking through those massive doors, I felt my confidence waver. Chandeliers sparkled overhead. People in elegant attire mingled with champagne glasses. Everyone looked so polished, so successful. I almost turned around. But then I remembered Emma's mocking laugh. Marcus's betrayal. Helen's sneer. I'd come this far. I wouldn't let them define me anymore. I straightened my shoulders and walked in, head high. People glanced my way. But their looks weren't mocking. They were curious. Assessing. Some even nodded politely as I passed. I accepted a glass of sparkling water from a passing waiter, trying to look like I belonged. The room buzzed with conversation. I scanned the crowd, looking for Theodore, wondering if I'd even recognize him after all these years. Then, across the room, through the sea of people, I saw him. Older, distinguished, but unmistakably Theodore.
And he was looking right at me.
Theodore's face lit up with genuine warmth. He excused himself from his conversation and strode across the room toward me, his smile growing wider with each step. There she is, his voice carried, causing several people nearby to turn. He reached me and took both my hands in his. You look absolutely fantastic. And that suit, classic. You always had impeccable taste. I felt my face flush. Theodore, No, I mean it, he insisted, loud enough that the people around us could hear. I've sat through 1,000 networking events with people trying too hard with the latest trends. But classic elegance? That never goes out of style. You look like someone who knows exactly who she is. A few attendees nearby nodded in agreement, murmuring their approval. The words hit me like a wave. Someone saw my worth first. Not my family. A man I hadn't seen in 15 years understood my value immediately. Thank you, I managed, my voice thick with emotion. Theodore kept his hand on my elbow, introducing me to nearby guests. This is the colleague I was telling you about, absolute legend in crisis management. I was floating, or maybe flying. Then, over Theodore's shoulder, I saw her. Emma, frozen near the bar, staring at me with her mouth open. Our eyes locked. Emma's face went through a rapid transformation, surprise, confusion, then something like panic. She'd come with someone, probably one of Marcus's younger colleagues, judging by the man standing awkwardly beside her. She turned away quickly, trying to blend into the crowd. But it was too late. I'd seen her. And she knew I'd seen her. Theodore continued talking, introducing me to more people, but I kept Emma in my peripheral vision. She was texting frantically, her fingers flying across her screen. Actually, Theodore said, touching my shoulder, would you mind if I borrowed you for a moment? I'd love to share something with the audience. My stomach dropped. The audience? Don't worry, he grinned. Trust me on this one. Before I could protest, he was gently guiding me toward the front of the room, where a small stage had been set up with a microphone. Emma's head snapped up, her eyes wide with horror. Theodore stepped up to the mic, tapping it twice. The room gradually quieted. If I could have everyone's attention for just a moment. I want to share a quick story about leadership, resilience, and the kind of person who changes everything. My heart pounded as he gestured for me to join him on stage. I climbed the 3 steps to the stage, my legs shaking. Theodore stood beside me, his presence steadying. 15 years ago, he began, his voice filling the ballroom, I was a senior manager drowning in what we called the Henderson crisis. Our biggest client was about to walk, taking millions in contracts with them. The team was panicking. I was panicking. The room was absolutely silent. This woman, he gestured to me, came into my office at 8 p.m. with a proposal. She'd spent her entire weekend analyzing their concerns, researching alternatives, and crafting a solution I hadn't even thought possible. She saved that account. She saved several people's jobs, including mine. My eyes burned with tears. What I learned from her was that intelligence paired with resilience is unstoppable. She never sought credit, never demanded recognition, just did the work with grace and brilliance. The applause started slowly, then built into a roar. People were standing. I stood frozen, overwhelmed. From the crowd, I saw Emma's face. Pale, shocked, her phone still clutched in her hand. Theodore leaned into the microphone one more time. Please join me in welcoming my guest of honor tonight. If you're enjoying this story so far, please take a moment to like this story and also hit the subscribe button to get notified of our new series. The applause continued as Theodore led me off the stage. I was trembling, barely processing what had just happened. People approached to shake my hand, compliment my work, ask about my current projects. Then I saw them pushing through the crowd, Marcus, with Helen right behind him, both wearing expressions I knew too well. Smug anticipation. They'd come to witness my failure, probably summoned by Emma's panic texts. But as they got closer, their expressions shifted. Marcus's smirk faded. Helen's confident stride faltered. They took in the scene, me surrounded by admirers, Theodore at my side, people treating me with respect and admiration. I don't understand, Helen muttered to Marcus. Theodore noticed them approaching and extended his hand. You must be family. I'm Theodore Walsh. Your wife here is an absolute legend. Marcus shook his hand automatically, still looking confused. Ah, yes. Her husband. Guest of honor, Theodore continued, gesturing to me. We're fortunate she agreed to attend tonight. Honestly, her insights back in the day shaped how I approach business now. Helen opened her mouth, then closed it. For once, she had nothing to say. Marcus looked at me like he was seeing a stranger. The conversation around us continued. Theodore's colleagues treated me like an honored guest, while Marcus stood awkwardly to the side, his usual confidence evaporating. A woman in an elegant dress approached, asking about my approach to client retention. Marcus tried to interject. Well, she mostly stays home these days, so... Actually, I said smoothly, I took time to focus on family, but I'm considering consulting opportunities. Theodore's eyes lit up. You know, we should talk about that. We're expanding our advisory board. Marcus's face went red. He tried to laugh it off. That's great, honey. But his voice cracked slightly. Helen stood beside him, rigid with discomfort. People kept approaching me, praising my past work, asking for my contact information. Not once did anyone turn to Marcus or Helen with the same interest. For the first time in years, I watched my husband feel invisible. He kept trying to insert himself into conversations, but people's eyes slid past him, returning to me. He leaned close, attempting a smile. You didn't tell me you were coming here tonight. You didn't ask what I was doing today, I replied calmly. Helen whispered sharply, This changes nothing. But her voice wavered, because we both knew it changed everything. Emma appeared at my elbow, her face flushed. Theodore introduced her to some of his colleagues. You must be her daughter. What a privilege to be raised by such a remarkable woman. A woman in pearls nodded enthusiastically. You must be so proud. Your mother's work ethic and intelligence, that's an incredible legacy. Emma's smile was frozen. Yes. So proud. I bet she inspired you tremendously, another colleague added. Having a mother who's both strong and brilliant, you're lucky. Emma's eyes darted to me, then away. Yes. Very inspiring. Theodore continued. I imagine she's the same at home as she was professionally. Graceful under pressure. Always 2 steps ahead. Am I right? Emma shifted uncomfortably. The colleagues waited for her response, all eyes on her. She's not like this at home, Emma blurted out suddenly. The group went quiet. Theodore's eyebrows raised slightly. Emma's face went crimson as she realized what she'd said. I just meant. One of the colleagues frowned. Not like what? Intelligent? Capable? Emma stammered, looking for an escape, but the circle had closed around her. She'd spoken without thinking, and now her own words trapped her. Theodore's expression shifted. The warmth in his eyes cooled as he looked at Emma. His voice remained polite, but there was steel underneath. Respect is earned by recognizing greatness, even in your family, he said quietly. Especially in your family. The entire group had gone silent. Emma's face burned red. Theodore continued, his gaze steady on Emma. Your mother saved careers, including mine. She did it with no fanfare, no demand for recognition. That's real strength. If you can't see that in your own home, perhaps you're not looking closely enough. The words hung in the air like a judgment. Emma's eyes filled with tears, not sad tears, but angry, embarrassed ones. She looked around at the faces watching her, all wearing various degrees of disappointment. I need to. She stammered, backing away. Excuse me. She turned and practically ran through the crowd toward the exit, her heels clicking rapidly against the marble floor. The colleagues exchanged glances. An older gentleman shook his head. Young people today, he murmured. They don't appreciate what they have. Marcus had witnessed the entire exchange. His face was tight with tension as Emma disappeared through the doors. Theodore turned back to me, his warmth returning. Now, where were we? Marcus, watching Emma flee, tried to regain some control. He puffed up slightly, moving closer to my side as if to assert some ownership. Well, he said with a forced chuckle, you have to understand, at home she's just... Theodore cut him off smoothly but firmly. At home? You should be her biggest supporter. If anything, the home should be where her brilliance is celebrated most. Marcus blinked, caught off guard. Several people nodded in agreement. A woman beside Theodore added, my husband brags about my accomplishments to anyone who'll listen. That's what partnership looks like. Marcus's mouth opened, then closed. His face cycled through emotions, surprise, indignation, embarrassment. We have a different dynamic. You don't understand how. How what? Theodore's voice was pleasant, but his eyes were sharp. How a husband should cherish his wife's intelligence. I think we understand that perfectly well. Marcus's face went from red to pale. He looked at me, perhaps expecting me to defend him, to smooth this over like I'd smoothed over countless uncomfortable moments before. I said nothing, just looked at him steadily. He cleared his throat, fumbling for words that wouldn't come. His usual confident swagger had completely abandoned him. Helen stepped forward to rescue him, but the damage was done. Helen's voice cut through the tension, sharp and deliberate. Well, this is all very lovely, but let me tell you about the real woman you're all celebrating. I felt my stomach clench. Here it came, the personal stories meant to humiliate me. The failures she'd cataloged over the years. The mistakes she'd never let me forget. Theodore's expression was politely curious. The colleagues waited. Helen smiled coldly. She came from nothing, you know. No family money.
No connections.
Had to work 3 jobs through college. Nearly dropped out twice. I braced myself for the mockery. But Theodore's face transformed. Wait, 3 jobs? While maintaining the academic excellence needed for that program. He turned to me. That's extraordinary resilience. Helen faltered, confused. Well, yes, but she also had a nervous breakdown during her 2nd year of work. From overwork while saving the Henderson account. Theodore interrupted. I remember. She worked herself to exhaustion for that company, never complained once, and still delivered beyond expectations. That's dedication. The colleagues were nodding, murmuring appreciation. Helen's mouth snapped shut. Every story she'd meant as an insult, Theodore reframed as strength. The crowd burst into applause again, this time directly cutting off Helen's attempt at sabotage. Helen stood frozen, isolated in her cruelty, as everyone celebrated the woman she'd tried to diminish. The evening wound down. People exchanged business cards, made plans. Theodore pressed his card into my hand. Lunch next week. I'm serious about that advisory position. I floated home, my mind spinning. Marcus and Helen had left early, separately. Neither said goodbye. At midnight, my phone lit up with a text from Emma. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't understand. I stared at the message for a long time. The words felt hollow. Sorry for what? For the years of disrespect? For today's cruelty? For only seeing my worth when strangers pointed it out? Another text came through.
Please, can we talk?
My thumb hovered over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to reply immediately, to smooth things over, to be the understanding mother I'd always been. But another part, the part that had stood on that stage tonight, the part that remembered who I used to be, that part knew better. I closed the phone without responding. Not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. A quiet smile spread across my face as I placed the phone on my nightstand. Tomorrow, things would be different. Tonight, I'd let the silence speak for me. I arrived home to find chaos. Marcus and Helen were in the living room, their voices raised in argument. They didn't notice me enter. This is your fault, Helen hissed at Marcus. You let her become invisible. Now look what's happened. My fault. Marcus shot back. You're the one who's spent years belittling her. I was trying to keep her humble, manageable. I leaned against the doorframe, listening. They were worried, not about hurting me, but about losing control. She has influence now, Marcus continued. Connections. That CEO practically worships her. If she decides to what? Helen demanded. Leave you? Divorce? You'd lose everything in a settlement. The word hung in the air.
Divorce.
I stepped into the room. They both jumped. Don't stop on my account, I said calmly, walking to the armchair. I sat down, crossing my legs, still wearing my suit. Please continue discussing my future. Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. We were just panicking. I supplied. Yes, I heard. Helen straightened, trying to regain her composure. Don't be dramatic. We're family. Are we? I tilted my head. Because family doesn't usually mock each other. Family supports, uplifts, respects. I let the silence stretch, watching them squirm. Then I reached into my bag and pulled out a manila folder. I'd stopped at an attorney's office on my way home, an attorney whose contact information Theodore had quietly provided during the event. For the first time in 23 years, I said, my voice steady, I'm going to draw a line. I placed the folder on the coffee table between us. Marcus stared at it like it was a snake. You laughed at me in this suit, I continued, gesturing to my outfit. Mocked me, humiliated me in my own home. But tonight, the world applauded it. That's not a coincidence. That's perspective. Marcus found his voice. You can't be serious. Over a suit? Over one comment. Over years, I corrected. Years of being made to feel small, worthless, invisible. Helen scoffed. You're overreacting. Every marriage has rough patches. This isn't a patch, I interrupted. This is a pattern. One I won't accept anymore. I opened the folder, revealing the divorce papers inside. Marcus's face went white.
No, we can talk about this.
We can fix this. Can you? I asked quietly. Or are you just scared of losing control? The question hung between us, unanswered. Marcus lunged forward, dropping to his knees beside my chair. Please, he begged. Don't do this. I made a mistake. We can work on this. Marriage counseling. Whatever you want. His desperation was palpable, but something about it rang hollow. His eyes weren't filled with love or regret. They were filled with fear. Fear of judgment. Fear of financial loss. Fear of his comfortable life changing. Marcus, I said gently, when did you stop seeing me? He blinked. What? When did I stop being a person to you? A partner? When did I become just furniture? Something to mock when you're bored, ignore when you're busy. That's not fair. Isn't it? I stood, forcing him to look up at me. Tonight you watched strangers celebrate me. You heard them describe my intelligence, my strength, my value.
And you looked shocked.
Your own wife, and you were shocked. Helen made a dismissive sound. This is absurd. You're throwing away your family over hurt feelings. No, I turned to her. I'm choosing myself over people who never chose me. Marcus grabbed my hand. I love you. Doesn't that count for something? I looked down at him. You already had your chance. 23 years of chances. You chose ridicule. You chose mockery. You chose your mother over your wife. So no, Marcus. You don't get another chance. I pulled my hand free. Emma appeared in the doorway, her face blotchy from crying. Mom, please. I'm so sorry. Unlike her father's, Emma's remorse seemed real. Her shoulders shook with genuine sobs. I was awful, she continued. I laughed at you. I joined in when Dad and Grandma made fun of you. I took that picture to mock you. Helen started to speak, but Emma cut her off.
No, Grandma.
Let me finish. She walked closer to me, her eyes red. I absorbed their disdain. I learned it from watching Dad ignore you, from hearing Grandma criticize everything about you. I thought that's how we were supposed to treat you. Tears streamed down her face. But tonight, I saw who you really are, what you accomplished, how people who actually matter see you. And I realized I've been cruel to someone extraordinary. I felt my own eyes well up. I'm not asking for immediate forgiveness, Emma said. I know I don't deserve it.
But please, Mom, give me a chance to do better.
To be better. To actually be the daughter you deserve. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She was young, 22. Still learning. Still growing. Respect starts with action, I said quietly. Words are easy. Behavior is truth. Show me who you want to be, Emma. Don't tell me. She nodded through her tears. I will. I promise I will. 3 months later, I stood in front of my mirror again, wearing the same navy suit. It had become my uniform of confidence, my armor of self-worth. Theodore's company had officially brought me on as a senior advisor. My first consulting check had cleared, more money than Marcus earned in 3 months. The divorce was proceeding smoothly. But the biggest change was standing beside me, reflected in the mirror. Emma wore a professional blazer, her hair pulled back, studying her own reflection with the same critical eye I'd once applied to mine. You look beautiful, I told her. I look nervous, she corrected, but smiled. What if I mess up the presentation? You won't. But if you do, you'll learn from it. That's what matters. We were attending another networking event together. Over the past 3 months, Emma had shown up. Actually shown up. She'd apologized to people she'd gossiped to about me. She'd started asking about my career, my dreams, my thoughts. She'd begun seeing me as a person, not just a role. Helen hadn't spoken to either of us since the divorce filing. Marcus lived in a condo across town, bitter but powerless. But Emma was here, trying, growing, becoming someone I was proud to stand beside. As we walked toward the car, Emma stopped. Mom, thank you for not giving up on me. I squeezed her hand. Respect starts with action. You showed me yours. We drove to the event together. I wore my suit, the same one they'd laughed at with pride, because it had become the one thing they could never forget. The symbol of the moment, I chose myself. The day I remembered I was worth celebrating. The suit that changed everything.